the last two questions for this for part one. Um, I've, I hear during football games, speaking of maybe a running back, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. And that's the spirit behind this next question. Are there issues that are impossible to correct, but we need to figure out how to manage it? And Mr. Mika, I'll start with you.
Really? Okay.
That one question. That one question.
Okay. Um,
And you have the privilege to pass.
yeah, I'm gonna
and come back to
I'm
you.
gonna ponder on that for just a little bit and let the guys take the lead on that one.
That is a tough one. Jamie, I believe all things are possible. Okay, um, but I don't think, without contradicting myself, that the viewpoints uh, differ so much when it comes to race relations, and we want to be. We got culture differences, and we got skin color differences. Okay, and so with all of that in dynamic, if you look at it with in a dynamics, it's a tough hill to climb. So I don't think, and please forgive me for saying, in this world, not gonna have peace. You're not gonna have peace. Um, I hate to be a bearer of bad news, but I think we've heard that before in the Word.
Hmm.
Um, because Jesus gives peace. And my buddies, they ask me again, why are you blacks up there throwing windows in Macy's and looting? And by the way, there's whites doing it too, but they don't see it. But I'm just letting you know that's the way of the world. You know? Why should we, as Christians, look at it any differently? I believe it was Tony Evans who said it. They did an interview with them, and he says, here we are, we stand amazed at what the world is doing,
Hmm.
as if they're supposed to be doing what is right. Of course they're gonna have issues. Of course, we're gonna have these things happening in our lives. So I don't know if we could ever, when you say that it's going to be possible, it's going to really be impossible in the sense that it is, because we're dealing with the world. But it's, how do you manage it? What do you do, Jamie? You raise the banner for peace. You raise the banner for equality, so to speak. You raise the banner for justice. You do it peacefully, but you're going to still, I guarantee you, it's going to happen again in some form or fashion. And media is going to get a hold of it. Excuse my camera people. And they're going to narrative. The narrative is going to be crazy, you know. So it is a tough question, Jamie, because you can't really answer it in the sense of, you got to take a viewpoint, a spiritual viewpoint, in which the world's not going to take. We're going to have turmoil, and so I took the long route, but I'm just telling you, it just, all things are possible, but how do you manage it? I don't really know. In this world, you can't manage it. You watch people go crazy. And you stand back and what in the world? How did that happen? So I can't. I guess I can't answer your question. I really can't. Spiritually, I can,
Mm.
but not in this world. I can.
I think all things are possible. I don't. I think you're selling yourself short anytime you say this issue is so bad, all I can do is manage it. There are certain things in life that you will have to do that with, but I'm not willing to say that about this, about racism and race relations. I'm not willing to say that we got to accept it because I don't think you have to.
Right.
I don't think you should. Well, I know you should. If we accept it and decide we're going to manage it, we're pretty much saying, okay, God, you kind of suck at creating people because we got to accept this guy is going to be this way. And I'm just not willing to go that far.
That's a question I have to say I do not know.
Mm.
I don't have an answer for that. That's a tough feat. Because people don't like to be managed,
Mm.
and I don't know.
Mm. I think about the verse you shared. In this world, we will have troubles, but fear not.
I'm with you.
And we're always going to have sin in this world, and you've alluded to it several times that there is an answer for sin, and a lot of people call it love, but we know from Scripture God is love. My last question is this. This subject, part one, is identifying the real issue. Are there questions that need to be asked to help us recognize the real issues? What questions would you ask? And I'll start with Chief.
Well, fortunately, that's one that I've had to deal with. The real question is why. I go back to a lot of it boils down to hatred. It does. Why do you hate what you hate? Why do you hate it so much that you're willing to act against it? I was having a discussion with some of my friends in church a couple, 3 years ago. I can't remember what incident sparked it, but they were upset with policing and some actions that some police took. I don't remember the incident. I wish I could. And I simply asked the guys. I said, "Okay, why do you?" I'm their friend. I was a cop then, and we're like close friends. Why do you hate cops? Tell me about your last interaction with a cop. And each one of them had a scenario where the cop was more than good to them. And when the conversation was over, the temperatures was down. They had boiled down because they didn't have an answer why. Why? So, if Jamie, we're all racist. Why do you hate that race? That's the question you need to ask. Why? Most people can't give you. Have you ever asked? Have any of y'all ever asked anybody that question? Anybody ever answered it for you? They give you all kind of crazy, but they never answer the question.
Right.
They can't. But that's the question I think I would ask. Why do you feel the way you feel?
I think when we talk about the questions, and you can make reference, I'm reminded of Tom Skinner, and you guys may or may not know who Tom Skinner was, but black preacher and a chaplain for the Washington Redskins years ago. And he wrote a book, If Jesus is the answer, then what are the questions? And a lot of people, they heard, they were going all across the country, and they heard Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the answer. That was a saying back many years when you were, young. And he answered the question, well, what are the questions? And he began to explain what those questions were. I said all that to say, how do you get to the real issue? Well, what questions need to be asked? I think it goes back to the chief priest, the head council. They need to answer the questions. common people, we generally follow. You know, we follow our parents. I'm not saying all blacks are Democrats, but for the most part, when we grew up in a Democratic way of thinking. I'm not saying we're that way now, but that's just the way it was. Lincoln did something for us, he was our man. Kennedy did something for us, he was our man. Lyndon Johnson, I don't care, he could have done, you know, anything he wanted to, but he was our man because he did something for us. And so those people we need to ask the questions to. Those leaders. In our sphere of influence, Jamie, they're the preachers. They're the big wigs. They're the ones that get on TV every week and, you know, wear their clothes and do what they do. Are they the ones out with the voice? That's my question. I would ask them, where are you? I see you on Sunday morning asking for money, but and then you make a statement on social media. But I mean, what indigenous project are you doing to calm this thing down, to speak about this thing? And again, Jamie, we've got to be number one in doing that. The only reason why I'm here today is because I'm a Christian, and I gotta be the one that raises the banner. Are you with me on this, Jamie? I've got to be the one. We can't let Christianity sit aside on this thing. It's got to take foremost. And God's and you may have read my post about the spirit. You know, there's an evil spirit of racism, obviously. I'm sure in some form or fashion we've all experienced it. But the truth of the matter is as a Christian, we've got to be foremost in presenting our case to the world, that we're not going to sit idly by either. You can do what you can burn things down, but hey, we've got a voice too. And those questions I want to ask to our leaders, our Christian leaders, our churches that have been so divided for many years, by the way. Well, they say one of the most divided places in the world is it's been a Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. You know, and we're supposed to be the ones unified. And so that's kind of where I am. I don't know what those questions are, but I know they need to be asked. I'm sure there's plenty of people that my question would be, where are you? You know, where are the leaders, the pastors, whether it's in our community or, you know, broadly speaking.
And a question that comes to mind for me is just a challenge to see what can we do to be more accepting of people, views, and ideas that aren't like ours. I understand why. If you can explain why you feel that way, then if I don't agree with that, that's fine. What can I do to be more accepting, loving, and respectful to not raise the temperature because of that difference? So.
There's a feeling of the first step really needs to be wanting to do something. It's funny, especially in church, you ask people why they didn't make it and you hear 100 excuses. And then my mama, people do what they want to do. When people want to correct this, then I think we'll see unprecedented correction take place. And that begins with the heart, where love is taken over rather than hate, where the spirit of the scripture says God gave us the ministry of reconciliation. And when that starts happening, you see it takes place. That's the end of our first session.